How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz. In today's video, we're going to be covering the best Pokemon to power up in Pokemon GO in 2025. Now, last year in September, we had some major changes made to raids. Damage was changed to be dealt in regular intervals of 0.5 seconds. So for example, a move like Shadow Claw, which is normally 0.7 seconds, is now rounded down to 0.5 seconds, making it much faster. On the flip side though, a move like Counter, which is normally 0.9 seconds, is now rounded up to 1 second, making it a little bit slower. So initially this changed a lot in the meta, making certain Pokemon climb the ranks. One example of this was actually Shadow Magnezone, which became the #1 electric type attacker for a bit, even surpassing Shadow Raikou. This was short-lived though, because while that 0.5 second cycle was kept, Niantic made some changes to energy generation and damage to balance things out similar to how they were before the update. So with that being said, these rankings are going to reflect the most recent meta changes, which have stayed consistent for the past few months without any adjustments. This list is also going to be focused on the best attackers for the Raid/Gym meta, which will include Shadow Pokemon this year. I'm also going to cover any additional relevance for the featured Pokemon, as many of these top Pokemon are also playable in other aspects of the game like PvP or Rocket Battles. Now, various S-tier Pokemon will be featured throughout this video, so make sure to watch it all the way through or you might end up missing something really good. That being said though, timestamps are organized by type, so feel free to skip ahead to any section that you do want to focus on building. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Mega Pokemon, you can only have one of these active at a time. These Pokemon do require Mega Energy initially from raids to Mega Evolve, but after Mega Evolving them for the first time, the cost to Mega Evolve them goes down by 80%. You also then gain the ability to earn Mega Energy from walking with your buddy, and you get a cooldown period between your next free Mega Evolution. This starts at 7 days and progressively goes down to 3 days as you continue to level up your Mega. Now, there are 3 levels for Mega Evolution, with Mega Level 3 being the final stage, and at this level you guys get amazing candy and extra large candy bonuses when catching Pokemon. Now keep in mind, it is going to take you 30 days of Mega Evolution to reach Mega Level 3. Now, Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon were also introduced into Pokemon GO in late 2024, and this added a whole new element to the game. In simple terms, if you wanted to get the most value out of a Pokemon, catching them in their Dynamax or Gigantamax forms would be the best way to do it now. For example, if you caught a Dynamax Beldum, this evolves into Metagross and will be relevant in max battles, raids, PvP in the Open Master League, and then also has a future Mega Evolution. I'm most likely going to make a separate video covering these Pokemon in more detail and their relevance in max battles, as they do require more strategy than raid battles. When it comes down to raid battles, just make sure that you power up your Pokemon to at least level 30, give it the right moveset, and you should be good to go. It is really important to contribute as much damage as possible because you can actually get extra Premier Balls this way, which is really important if you're going to be doing 5-star or Legendary Raid battles, since those Pokemon can be quite difficult to catch. Every extra Pokeball you get makes a big difference. Now, some of you out there might not understand what I mean when I say power up a Pokemon to level 30, so let me quickly explain Pokemon levels and how they work, as I'm going to be referencing these a lot throughout the video. So basically, the easiest way to tell the level of a Pokemon is by looking at the Stardust required to power it up. For example, Pokemon hatched and caught from raid battles are level 20, requiring 2,500 Stardust to power them up. If that raid Pokemon was weather boosted, it's going to be at level 25, which is 4,000 Stardust to power it up. Now, level 30 requires 5,000 Stardust to power it up, and if you're a high enough level in game, you can actually catch all the way up to level 35 Pokemon in the wild when they are weather boosted, which would be 8,000 Stardust to power it up. There's always going to be at least one weather boost ongoing in Pokemon GO, and if you click on the little weather icon, you can see which ones it actually is boosting. For example, Sunny Weather boosts Grass, Ground, and Fire type Pokemon, but something like Partially Cloudy Weather will boost Normal and Rock type Pokemon. Now, catching and evolving level 30 plus meta-relevant Pokemon during certain events, regardless of IVs, is going to be an amazing strategy to actually build strong temporary raid teams, while saving your Stardust for better investments, and specifically Pokemon that we're going to be going over in this video. Speaking of which though, because we are going to be going over Shadow Pokemon, there is one really important thing I want to go over in regards to them, and that is going to be the comparison between Shadow Pokemon and regular Pokemon, and why Shadow Pokemon are so much better. So first of all, Shadow Pokemon get a 20% increase to their attack, while also suffering a 20% reduction to their defense. Basically, this equates out to a level 35 Shadow Pokemon being equal to its level 50 regular counterpart. So for example, a level 35 Shadow Raikou is going to be equivalent to a level 50 regular Raikou. Now, I do always get a few questions about how I'm actually measuring power potential in these videos, as there's a lot of different ways to actually calculate it. So with that being said, I'm going to be using GamePress's DPS times TDO spreadsheet to measure power potential, which is definitely my preference when it comes down to these calculators. Now, for those of you confused on what these terms actually mean, DPS stands for damage per second, and TDO stands for total damage output. I'm going to be using the ER measurement specifically, which is basically DPS to the third power times TDO. Now, this provides the most accurate representation for raid battles, it combines both speed and bulk rather than just speed with DPS only. Now over the years, there have definitely been more creators who have started to make these types of videos as well. I've been doing this for like the past 6 years, but you know, every creator is going to measure power potential differently. That's why I felt like it was important to mention how I'm actually calculating this stuff for this video. Anyways, that pretty much covers all the basics I wanted to go over. As always, if you guys have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. And I want to reiterate this one more time. These are going to be the best Pokemon to focus on, which means a lot of them might not be as accessible, meaning that they might require like elite TMs and stuff like that. Now, if you guys want me to actually upload a top budget Pokemon video, well, good news is that I'm actually currently working on it right now. But if you want me to speed up that process, get this video past 1,000 likes, and also subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll have that video up within a week after we cross that threshold. So first up, let's go over our fire type options, and we're going to start off with Mega Charizard Y and Mega Blaziken. And you're probably wondering why I'm going over 2 different Mega options here. Well, that's because Mega Charizard Y and Mega Blaziken basically tie for first place. You want to have the moveset Fire Spin plus Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to be a Legacy Calm Day moveset, which is going to require an Elite Charge TM, but it's definitely worth it if you end up getting the hundo. Now, sometimes we do get events throughout the year where you can actually evolve these Pokemon to get their Legacy movesets for free. Typically, this does happen more often with Charizard rather than Blaziken. So if you want to hold on to your Charmander and wait until we get one of those events, that would definitely be a smart approach. It's going to be like a long-term process, though. If you just want to have like the best fire type attacker in the game, you know, you can totally just give it that Elite Charge TM. That's actually what I did when I got my hundo. Now following that, we have Shadow Heatran, which you want to have Fire Spin plus the Legacy moveset Magma Storm. Now Shadow Heatran was just recently available from Giovanni from the Super Rocket Radar, and I'm hoping that some of you guys were able to get it. I totally waited until the last minute to get my Shadow Heatran, but it was definitely worth it. I got a 3-star IV spread, which is super awesome for a Shadow. I gave it the Legacy moveset Magma Storm, we powered it up to level 40, and yeah, now it's good to go. Finally, to round things off for our fire types, we're going to have Reshiram with Fire Fang plus the Legacy moveset Fusion Flare. This is just slightly worse than Shadow Heatran, but given that it is going to be a regular Pokemon, you can Lucky Trade it, which means it's going to cost you a lot less in terms of powering it up, and it's basically the same power potential right here. So when it comes down to it, I would actually, you know, go with Reshiram over Shadow Heatran, just because it's a little bit more cost effective. We are going to have Reshiram coming back into raids during the Unova Tour, and depending on when you're watching this video, that might have already passed, but it also means that a lot of players probably have Reshiram available for trade, so try and Lucky Trade this if possible, and then, you know, you should be able to get it with Fusion Flare as well during the Unova Tour. Now once again, we're only going over the best of the best in this video, otherwise I could go over like 10 other fire types that are going to be worth powering up as well, but specifically for 2025, these 4 right here, definitely worth it. Alright, next up, let's go over our grass types. So for our Mega Evolution, we're going to have Mega Sceptile with Bullet Seed plus Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to be a Legacy Calm Day moveset. This is objectively better than Mega Venusaur, so if you happen to have both, definitely go with Sceptile. We're going to have Kartana, Zarude, and Shaman in a Sky form. So first up, Kartana is by far one of my favorite investments I think I've ever made in Pokemon Go. Razor Leaf plus Leaf Blade is seriously such a good moveset. Like, just Razor Leaf alone, this thing destroys Rocket Grunts, guys. Oh my goodness. Like, anything that is weak to Grass-type Pokemon, use Kartana against it. It is phenomenally good. Now, going back to Zarude, this Pokemon is also going to rank at number 19 in the Open Master League. So if you happen to get a good IV spread, this is definitely worth taking to level 50. Although that being said, this Pokemon has only been released a handful of times, and the last few times it's been only available through like paid research, so I only imagine that some players have access to this one. In regards to Shaman in its Sky form, there was actually a bug with this Pokemon I think a few years ago where you couldn't get Magical Leaf without like an Elite TM or like on specific Shaman. Thankfully, Niantic did actually fix this, so if you do have Shaman in its Sky form, you can just use a regular Fast TM to get Magical Leaf, which is pretty awesome, especially considering that it is going to be one of the top Grass-type attackers in the game. Moving on over to our Water-type section, so we basically have the top-tier Water-type attacker, which is going to be Kyogre, Primal Kyogre, Shadow Kyogre, Kyogre all around, guys. You cannot go wrong with this Pokemon. It's actually preferred to have both Origin Pulse and Surf on your Kyogres. That's what I have on both my Shadow and my Primal. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, yes, both is the preferred option. Origin Pulse if you just want to go with one option, and then if you don't want to use the Elite TM, Surf is a pretty good one to go with as well. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because there's definitely going to be a lot of Pokemon that are going to require Elite TMs. I don't want you guys to spend all your Elite TMs on, like, all these Pokemon, right? If you can get away not using an Elite TM, I think that's definitely a huge advantage. And for Kyogre, I feel like that's one Pokemon where if you didn't want to give it the Elite TM, that is okay, but it is going to be a nice boost in power potential, especially for the Primal. Now, obviously, Kyogre can't be the only good Water-type Pokemon to invest into, so we do have one other option I wanted to go over. that is going to be Shadow Swampert. Now, for Shadow Swampert, you want to ideally have Water Gun plus the legacy moveset Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is really important here, guys. Like, it makes a huge difference compared to running Surf on Swampert. It's definitely not like Kyogre where you can get away running Surf. Swampert needs Hydro Cannon. Now, that being said, Swampert has relevance in both the Ultra League and then also the Master League as well. So if you happen to get a good PvP IV spread, you can focus on building the Ultra League spread and then use that as a good water type attacker. But if you happen to get the Hundo or like a 98 with 15 attack, then definitely consider maxing this out at level 50. It's definitely not going to be like a top tier Master League attacker, but it's only like a 1 point difference from regular Kyogre with Origin Pulse, which as far as shadows go, that's really, really good. Now, of course, if you want to save your resources, that is totally understandable. Shadow Swampert is a very expensive Pokemon. Electric types are going to be up next, starting off with Shadow Raikou, which is still going to reign supreme as the #1 Pokemon for this category. As far as the moveset goes, you want to go with Thunder Shock plus Wild Charge. This does not require any legacy movesets, so as far as like all the best Pokemon go in this video, this one is super, super good. This was available 3 times last year, so if you happen to play the game, I hope that you at least got yourself one of these, maybe even a Shadow Shiny. I got myself a Shadow Shiny, that thing is level 40 right now, and I love using it. Not to mention, Shadow Raikou has actually been the #1 in this category for like the past few years, so until we happen to get Shadow Zekrom or Shadow Thundurus, this is going to stay the #1. I mean, as far as like, power creeps go, Shadow Raikou has actually maintained its meta relevance longer than most other Pokemon in this game. But speaking of the other two, we also have Zekrom and Thundurus in its Therian form. Both of these Pokemon are basically tied as the #2 option for the electric type category, technically the best of the non-shadows. Now for Zekrom, you want to go with Charge Beam plus a legacy moveset Fusion Bolt, which once again is going to be coming back during the Univitor. But if you happen to miss that, Wild Charge honestly isn't that big of a difference here. So if you don't have Fusion Bolt on your Zekrom, it's not the end of the world. Wild Charge is still going to be an excellent option. I would not actually use an Elite TM on Zekrom, I just don't think it's as worth it. And then when it comes down to Thundurus in its Therian form, you want to go with Volt Switch plus Wild Bolt Storm. This one does require the legacy moveset though, because Thunderbolt is significantly worse comparatively. The next one is going to be Shadow Electivire with Thunder Shock plus Wild Charge. Last year I was able to get a 98% IV Shadow Electabuzz from a Rocket Grunt, and I'm super stoked about that. I have been talking about Shadow Electivire for years, but I just never really had a good IV spread to power up, let alone just a Shadow Electabuzz in general, like, because that's a really rare Pokemon to get from a Rocket Grunt. Now, as far as the Mega options go, we have Mega Manectric, which is, like, technically worse than all the other Pokemon that I already mentioned. For the moveset, you want to go with Thunderfang plus Wild Charge. Now, the reason why you would still want to invest into Mega Manectric is because if you're using this in raid battles, it's going to boost the surrounding Electric-type Pokemon, which is honestly a huge plus. And then finally, we have one more Pokemon that I wanted to go over, which again is still, like, in the top tier here, and that is going to be Xurkitree with Thunder Shock plus Discharge. So no legacy movesets once again, which I think is really great overall for the electric type category. Like, there's only 2 Pokemon here, technically only 1, that really requires that legacy moveset. Everything else you can get away not using Elite TMs. Taking a look at our flying types next, we have Mega Rayquaza with Air Slash plus the legacy moveset Dragon Ascent. Now, in order to actually get Dragon Ascent, you can't use an Elite TM, you have to use a Meteorite, which was only available during certain events. We actually had 2 Mega Rayquaza raid days last year, so we had the ability to get meteorites for free. It really wasn't that difficult. Well, I think the first time around it was kind of difficult, but the second time around it wasn't that difficult. Now keep in mind, guys, I am not overselling this right now. Mega Rayquaza, like with Air Slash plus Dragon Ascent, is the best generalist attacker in the game on top of the best flying type attacker in the game. Like, compared to its other option, which is Hurricane, it is almost 20 points higher. We don't know for sure if we're going to be able to give our Shadow Rayquaza in the future Dragon Ascent with a Meteorite. That is still undecided as of right now. I think Niantic hasn't really figured it out either, which is why we totally skipped over Shadow Rayquaza in the rocket rotation last year. But assuming that we do eventually get it and it can get Dragon Ascent, this thing is going to be one of the best Pokemon, by far, in the entire game. Shadow Rayquaza was skipped in the rotation, so I don't think that's going to be coming into the game anytime soon, because the power creep would just be immeasurable, to be completely honest with you. So keeping all that in mind, if Shadow Rayquaza isn't going to be coming to the game anytime soon, is it actually worth giving my regular Rayquaza Dragon Ascent? I'm gonna say at least one of them, yes, maybe 2 of them, depending on how many meteorites you guys actually have. The next best flying type attacker you have in game is going to be Shadow Moltres with Wing Attack plus the legacy moveset Sky Attack, which is about 6 points, maybe 6.5 points lower than Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent. That's a big difference right there. So if you wanted to give it Dragon Ascent on just like another regular Rayquaza, I think that is definitely a good consideration. But on that note, we also do have some other flying type options as well if you don't have the Meteorites. So we do have Shadow Moltres with Wing Attack plus Sky Attack like I just mentioned. So if you happen to build a Shadow Moltres a long time ago, or if you just happen to have one sitting in your storage, definitely worth a consideration for a flying type attacker. And then we also have Shadow Staraptor as well, which has the Legacy Comday moveset Gust, that's going to be a fast move by the way, with Fly. This is basically on par with Shadow Moltres. Now keeping that in mind though, you don't even have to give it the Legacy fast move for Gust, you could just use Wing Attack, and that's honestly not that much worse. Now following that, we also have Yveltal with Gust plus Oblivion Wing. Oblivion Wing is going to be a Legacy moveset, no surprise there. And this Pokemon is basically on the same power potential as Shadow Staraptor, even without the Legacy moveset. So that's really good, but the additional benefit to Yveltal is that it's also going to be number 3 in the Open Master League right now. So actually when it comes down to it, I think one of the best Pokemon you can invest into besides Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent is going to be Yveltal with Oblivion Wing. Just given its dual functionality in the Open Master League, I mean, you're going to get a lot more value compared to the other two. Now following that, let's go over our poison type options. So we have 2 different variations here, right? We have one that's like pure poison type, and then we have another one that's ghost and poison. So let me cover the pure poison types first, and then we'll go over the ghost and poison right after. So as far as pure poison types go, you have Mega Beedrill as your best mega option with Poison Jab plus Sludge Bomb, and then you have Nalego as your best non-mega option with Poison Jab plus Sludge Bomb. Now you do also have an honorable mention, which is going to be the, I think it's mythical or maybe a legendary, that's going to be Naganadel, which evolves from Poipole. You were only able to get one of these, I believe, but you could actually trade for it. So if you lucky traded it, this could definitely be something that you power up just kind of for fun. Now I did also mention that we have a ghost and poison type option that's going to be Mega Gengar with either Lick or Shadow Claw plus Sludge Bomb. Now Lick is going to be a legacy fast move, so I wouldn't really recommend using Elite TM. I mean, yes, it's going to be better, but like I don't think it's worth it. So Shadow Claw is perfectly fine plus Sludge Bomb. Now once again, this isn't going to be a double poison type moveset, but it benefits from stab on both of those movesets. Not to mention ghost type moves are honestly really good for neutral damage against most Pokemon. There's only like a handful of Pokemon that actually resist ghost type moves. So when it comes down to it, I think Mega Gengar is the best Pokemon to invest into for the poison type category, as weird as that is to say, even though it doesn't have a poison type fast move. And the same could be said for Shadow Gengar, just using it as a poison type attacker too. Now the cool thing here, as we kind of transition to the ghost type category as well, is that Mega Gengar can definitely be used for both. Just give it a secondary moveset, like that's it. Have Shadow Ball as one moveset, and then Sludge Bomb as the other moveset, and now you're good to go. Like, that is going to be a phenomenal Pokemon to use. Even though it is on the glassy side, I mean, I think Mega Gengar is just fantastic. Taking a look at our ghost type options next, we just went over Mega Gengar, so I'm not going to go over that one again, although that is going to be the best Mega option that you guys do have. And once again, Lick is going to be better here, but I just think Shadow Claw is perfectly fine. Now, as far as the best ghost type Pokemon goes, we're going to have Dawnwing's Necrozma with Shadow Claw plus Moongeist Beam. Now, Moongeist Beam is a moveset that you can only get when you fuse it together. So basically how you get Dawnwing's Necrozma is by fusing Lunala with Necrozma. Now, Lunala evolves all the way up from Cosmog. Cosmog has only been available during very specific events, from like special research quests. We actually had one during Go Fest, but when we had Necrozma Raid Day in December like 2 months ago, this wasn't available for some odd reason. Like, I don't even know how you have a Necrozma Raid Day and don't offer a free Cosmog, or even like a paid Cosmog for that matter. Neither were available. So I'm sure a lot of you guys out there probably have Necrozma, but you don't have Cosmog, so you can't evolve it to Lunala, and then you can't fuse it. So as of right now, this Pokemon is very exclusive. If you weren't able to get the Cosmog to fuse it together with Necrozma, well then you're kind of out of luck until we actually get that opportunity. Which I'm sure we will eventually, I just don't know when, because if not during Necrozma Raid Day, then when, right? Anyways though, as far as meta relevance goes, this is the best ghost type attacker in the game. Ideally, if you wanted to have like the best ghost type team right now, you would have 5 Dawnwings Necrozma plus 1 Mega Gengar. Now, given the rarity of Dawnwings Necrozma due to the whole Cosmog situation, I also wanted to go over some other options for ghost types. So we also have Shadow Chandelure with Hex plus Shadow Ball, and then Gengar with Shadow Claw plus Shadow Ball as well. Now we do actually have an honorable mention that's going to be Giratina Origin Form, which also has relevance in the Open Master League. You ideally want to go with either Shadow Claw plus Shadow Force or Shadow Claw plus Shadow Ball. Shadow Force is objectively better for PvE in the raid/gen meta, but for PvP I think you typically want to go with Shadow Ball. Now we have Psychic types coming up next, so we have Shadow Mewtwo as the #1 Psychic type option you guys can go with. You want to have Confusion plus Psystrike. Psystrike is going to be a legacy moveset. Now, do you actually want to Elite TM to get Psystrike? I personally think it's worth it, but at the same time, you could also just go with Psychic. It's about 4 points lower, and it's still going to be like the #1 option. So really it just comes down to having Shadow Mewtwo by itself, not necessarily having the right moveset. And when I say right moveset, I mean like Psystrike over Psychic. So basically when it comes down to it, Shadow Mewtwo is the #1 option, whether you go with the Legacy moveset or just the non-Legacy moveset. As far as the Mega options go, we have Mega Alakazam until we eventually get Mega Mewtwo, which I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. I mean, maybe over summer for Go Fest, maybe next year over Go Fest. I don't know. I think they're really holding on to that Pokemon, but hopefully we get it sometime soon because we're kind of running out of Mega Pokemon. Mega Alakazam is going to be the #1 best option. Still worse than Shadow Mewtwo, but you do want to have the Legacy moveset Psychic as well. Future Sight is about 4 points lower, so I mean, yeah, Psychic is important, but at the end of the day, guys, it's a temporary option until we get Mega Mewtwo. I wouldn't really invest resources into this. I think Future Sight is fine for the time being. And then, of course, we have regular Mewtwo with the same moveset, Confusion plus Psystrike. Once again, if you're going to be running this for the Open Master League, Psystrike is really important. If you're just going to be running this for the Raid/Gym meta, you can get away using Psychic, I think that's fine. So with that being said, let's move on over to our Dark types. We have Mega Tyranitar as the #1 best option, the best Mega you guys can go with. Now as far as the moveset goes, you want to go with Bite plus Brutal Swing, and somebody please let Mystic7 know that Brutal Swing is not a Legacy moveset. So you should be good to go on that, and then Shadow Tyranitar is going to be the next best option here, basically the exact same moveset. And honestly, those two, they're the top dogs. If you just have like a 5 Shadow Tyranitar plus Mega Tyranitar, you're good to go. But of course, I do want to include a little bit more than that. So we have Tyranitar as well in its regular form, still really, really good option. And then we also have Hydreigon with Bite plus Brutal Swing. Now for Hydreigon, this is going to be a Legacy moveset as far as Brutal Swing goes. So basically all around, Tyranitar is going to be the king. It was not the king actually for a few years in between. But ever since they got access to Brutal Swing, well, that just propelled it all the way to the top, and I think it's going to stay there, guys. I really do. Now we have Bug types next, but I do want to give you guys a warning regarding Bug types because most of the typings that Bug types will be super effective against, other typings in game like Ghost types and Dark types typically hit them as well. Same thing with Psychic, I believe. And so a lot of times you end up not using Bug types just because you have better options out there from other typings respectively. So as we're going through this, keep that in mind. I wouldn't really invest a lot of resources into your Bug types unless you just happen to really like them. So as far as the #1 best Mega goes, we're going to have Mega Heracross, which was released last year, I believe. And this is going to have the moveset Struggle Bug plus Mega Horn. And then following that, we have Pheromosa and Volcarona. Now, Pheromosa is an Ultra Beast, so that's going to require a decent amount of resources right there. Technically, that's the best non-Shadow, non-Mega option in game. Actually, it's the best even just with Shadows included. And then we also have Volcarona, which evolves from Larvesta. I know a lot of you guys understand how difficult it is to hatch this Pokemon, let alone get one with good IVs, so there's that. Not to mention, it requires 400 candy to evolve this. That's crazy, right? And so most players probably aren't going to have a Volcarona anytime soon unless we get a Calm Day for it, which I think we will at some point. But as of right now, resource-wise, especially given it's a Bug type, I just don't think it's worth it. Fighting types are going to be up next, and we have one amazing Pokemon that got released last year that's going to be Mega Lucario with Force Palm plus Aura Spear. Now, Force Palm was a new moveset that got added into the game, and Force Palm is going to be a legacy moveset for Lucario. But let me tell you this right now. It is significantly better than Counter. Now following that we have Terrakion, which is going to have the legacy moveset Sacred Sword as a charge move plus Double Kick as a fast move. For a long time Terrakion wasn't that good, but then it got Double Kick as a fast move and then it just propelled up in the meta. So as far as shadow options go, this is better than all the shadow options too. Although the next option being Shadow Conkeldurr, which got released I think 2 seasons ago, maybe 6-7 months ago, this is pretty close to Shadow Terrakion. No legacy movesets, just Counter plus Dynamic Punch, but getting a Shadow Timber, let alone with good IVs from Rocket Grunts, has proven to be quite difficult. Personally speaking, I got really lucky with this. I got a good IV spread during the first rotation. I powered that up to level 40. I'm happy to have that, but understanding that most players probably aren't going to get this with good IVs, I mean, Terrakion just makes a lot more sense. Especially because Terrakion is going to be featured during the Univator with the legacy moveset Sacred Sword, so you have your opportunity right there to get one of the best, actually the best, non-mega fighting type attacker in the game. Do not miss out on that. I do also want to recommend investing into Lucario just by itself with Force Palm plus Aura Spear. I mean, Force Palm really boosted it up, guys. Counter was holding it back a lot. Force Palm took it up there with the ranks of Terrakion and Shadow Conkeldurr. Now we do actually have an honorable mention I wanted to go over that's going to be the mythical Pokemon Keldeo. This is going to require Low Kick plus Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword isn't a legacy moveset for Keldeo because it only had 1 release and Well, it just has access to Sacred Sword, so I mean, you could run Keldeo if you have it. I don't think most players have Keldeo, but if you do have it, then by all means, go for it. Keldeo is basically a clone of Terrakion, so if it actually got access to Double Kick, then Keldeo would be exactly the same as Terrakion. So the fact that it doesn't have Double Kick is what holds it back, but still, it's a fun Pokemon to use if you don't have anything else or if you just want to run something different. I think it's a great option. Next up, let's talk about Normal type Pokemon. And I know what you're thinking, Normal type, what is this guy on about? Normal type doesn't do super effective against anything. And you're right, it doesn't. That's why I never include it in these videos. But every single year, I make one of these videos, guys. Oh, looks like he forgot to include normal types. Oh, looks like normal types weren't included. Well, you know what? I'm going to include normal types this year because for whatever reason, if you want to invest into a normal type, I'm going to give you a good recommendation. And you know what that recommendation is? Shadow Regigigas. The thing about Shadow Regigigas, though, is that it's a little bit more of a complicated Pokemon. And the reason for that is because of the fast move. It doesn't have access to a normal type fast move, but it does have access to Hidden Power. Now, Hidden Power can go in a lot of different directions. And I think the most beneficial way to look at this is that you either want to go with a Dragon Hidden Power or a Ghost Hidden Power. Those typically hit the most typings while being able to take advantage of the stab moveset being Giga Impact, because that is going to be a normal type moveset. Now in most situations, I wouldn't really recommend this Pokemon, but honestly, I think if you're looking for something fun to build, this is definitely the guy you want to go with. So moving on from that, we have Rock types coming up next, and we have 4 Pokemon here that are going to be the top, best of the best. They were the best of the best last year, they're going to be the best of the best this year. The number 1 option you guys can go with is going to be Shadow Rhyperior with Smackdown plus the Legacy moveset Rock Wrecker. If you ever get a good IV spread on your Shadow Rhyhorn from like Rocket Grunts, this should be a no-brainer, guys. Now following that, we also have 2 Mega options, which is going to be Mega Tyranitar with Smackdown as a Legacy fast move, and then Stone Edge. Then we also have Mega Diancie with Rock Throw plus Rock Slide, and then finally we also have Shadow Rampardos with Smackdown plus Rock Slide. So Mega Tyranitar, Shadow Rhyperior both require Legacy movesets. Mega Diancie, Shadow Rampardos do not. Shadow Rampardos is a glass cannon though. Its DPS is crazy good. TDO, not so much. The downside to Mega Diancie is that its accessibility to getting the extra large candy is pretty difficult, right? You're gonna have to use the extra large rare candy because there's no other way to get this Pokemon. That being said though, any combination of these 4 Pokemon is going to be optimal for your Rock type raid team. Ground types are gonna be up next, and for our number 1 Mega option, we're going to have Primal Groudon with Mudshot plus Precipice Blades as the Legacy moveset. Now, Precipice Blades, we talked about Kyogre with Origin Pulse and how you can get away using Surf. Can you get away using Earthquake on Groudon? Honestly, I think you can, but I don't think you should. It's like a 5-point difference between the two for Precipice Blades and Earthquake, which is significant on the ER scale. So I would definitely recommend, if you get a good IV spread, to give an Elite TM to Groudon for Precipice Blades. Same thing can be said for Shadow Groudon, which again was released last year from Giovanni. Now for this, the difference isn't as much, but it's still like a 4-point difference. Personally, I think you can get away with it, but if you want to have just a way more powerful ground type, Precipice Blades for sure on your Shadow Groudon. I don't think we're going to get this in raids for like at least another year or 2. And then of course, regular Groudon also has relevance in the Open Master League at number 16 right now, although this is going to require Precipice Blades. So if you want to run Master League, make sure to have Precipice Blades. If you're just going to do the raid/gym meta, I mean, Earthquake, you can get away with that. Barely, but you can still get away with it. Now, as far as the regular options go, we have Landorus in its Therian form with Mudshot plus a Legacy moveset Sandsear Storm. This moveset is absolutely required. It's like a 6-point difference. Now we also do have Shadow Garchomp, which did make the list here with Mudshot plus Earth Power. Now this moveset, you can actually just get away with not using Earth Power, or just not using Elite TM to get Earth Power. Earthquake is perfectly fine. It's like a 1-point difference. It's not that big of a deal. Now we do actually have 2 honorable mentions here. We're going to have Shadow Excadrill and then Shadow Rhyperior. So Shadow Rhyperior, I mentioned earlier, easy investment for Rock Wrecker, but it's also really good for the Rocket Grunts as well. Mud Slap plus Rock Wrecker and then like a moveset of your choice is going to be recommended. Now as far as Shadow Excadrill goes, the reason why I'm recommending this as an honorable mention is because every other moveset that we've gone over so far has been a legacy one besides Garchomp with Earthquake, and technically that's one you can get away with. Shadow Excadrill, Mud Slap plus Scorching Sands, perfect moveset right there. Also, really, really good against Rocket Grunts. Like Mud Slap right now after the recent changes is so good to use against them. Ice types are going to be up next. We're going to have Shadow Mamoswine as the best ice type attacker in the game. I was lucky enough to actually get a Shadow Hundo Swinub last year in Pokemon GO, and I maxed that thing out to level 50 for Shadow Mamoswine. Powder Snow plus Avalanche is the best moveset. Also, you can have high horsepower and swap the fast move to use it as a ground type attacker as well. Great versatility. Also really good to use in the Open Master League. So, I mean, if you ever get this Pokemon with like really good IVs, easiest investment ever. There's no legacy movesets, it's super good in 2 different metas, 3 different metas if you include Master League. Following that, if you don't have Shadow Mamoswine though, we also have Shadow Weavile with Ice Shard plus Avalanche. We have Baxcalibur next, which is one of the new pseudo-legendaries for dragon types currently, and the moveset you want to have on this is going to be Ice Fang plus Avalanche. It's currently the best non-Shadow, non-Mega option in the game right now. Actually, it's better than the Megas, so yeah, Baxcalibur, definitely recommend. I think when we get the eventual Calm Day for it might be like a Dragon type moveset for the Legacy one. And as far as Ice type moves go, it's gonna stay pretty much where it's at, which is actually great because it means you can build one right now, not worry about having to save the IV spread for the future. Also, not to mention, you know, during the Calm Days, you're gonna get plenty of good IVs as well, so I mean, it's not a big deal. Now, following that, we do actually have one more option to go over. That's gonna be Galarian Darmanitan with Ice Fang plus Avalanche. It's a little bit worse than Baxcalibur. And so this was the #1, I think, last year, and it's still going to be a great Pokemon to invest into. I think it's fantastic. It is going to get a Zen mode eventually. I don't know when or how that's going to happen, but I think that'll function similar to Mega Evolution. So if you want to invest into one, I don't think that would be a bad idea. And then as far as our Mega options go, we have Mega Abomasnow with Powder Snow plus Weather Bowl. This is like worse than everything that we've gone over so far, but as far as Megas go, it's still really good. You can also use this in the Open Ultra League as well if you want to actually power up that hundo and keep it below 2500 CP. We're going to take a look at Steel-type Pokemon next, and for the longest time, Metagross was the only Pokemon worth talking about. But we actually have a new Pokemon to talk about now. That's going to be Duskmane Necrozma. So yeah, it's going to be the same accessibility problems as Dawnwing's Necrozma, but if you happen to get this Pokemon, especially with good IVs, this thing is amazing. I mean, it is so much better than Shadow Metagross. It's like 10 points higher. Actually, it's 11 points higher. I kid you not, for the longest time, Shadow Metagross was like the pinnacle of Steel-type investments, but now with Duskmane Necrozma, that has changed a little bit. I think in terms of optimal investments, like once we eventually get Mega Metagross, you want to have Mega Metagross plus 5 Duskmane Necrozma, and that is probably going to be the best Steel-type attacker team you can have in the game, guys. Like, I don't think we're going to get anything close to that for years. Now, as far as Shadow Metagross goes, you want to have Bullet Punch plus Meteor Mash as a Legacy Calm Day moveset. This is crucial for Metagross, guys. You cannot run this Pokemon without it. Flash Cannon is significantly worse. That being said, though, if you happen to be using regular Metagross for the Dynamax raids, you can avoid having Meteor Mash for the time being. So when it comes down to Dynamax, Meteor Mash not that important, but for raid/gym meta, it's extremely important. Fairy types are coming up next as our second to last category for this video. So our best Mega option is going to be Mega Gardevoir with Charm plus Dazzling Gleam. There is nothing even close to this. There's actually no other Mega option for Fairy types anyways. I think we have Mega Mawile technically, but that doesn't even have a double Fairy type moveset, so irrelevant. Mega Gardevoir, guys, the queen of Fairy types. Following that, you also have Shadow Gardevoir with Charm plus Dazzling Gleam. This is going to be your next best option, although I do want you to keep in mind that Enamorous Incarnate is also going to be a really good option to go for, and probably even better than Shadow Gardevoir because it's going to be a regular variant, which means you can Lucky Trade it. It's going to cost you less Stardust, same power potential, and no legacy movesets. Could not think of a better Pokemon to invest into. And it's also going to be available in raids during February, so if you happen to get it, great. If you didn't happen to get it, hopefully somebody around you did. And then finally we have Xerneas, which is going to have Geomancy as the legacy fast move plus Moonblast. This is worse than Enamorous and Shadow Gardevoir, and to be honest, I wouldn't really recommend this if it wasn't for its Master League relevance. It's number 22 right now in the Open Master League, and it's usually pretty up there in terms of meta relevance, so for that reason alone, the dual functionality is what kept this Pokemon on this list. Otherwise, I would have stopped at Enamorous, and I just said, you know what, those are the best. But yeah, as far as the Legacy Fast Move goes, if you happen to get the Hundo, definitely worth it for Xerneas. We have finally made it to the last category, the Dragon types. Now, normally this category is pretty long, and I will say it's still longer than most of the other ones we went over, but I did shorten this one down a lot. So as far as the best Mega option goes, we have Mega Rayquaza with Dragon Tail plus the legacy moveset Breaking Swipe. After the recent raid changes, Breaking Swipe became a lot better of a moveset just due to its spammability, I have to imagine. And so if you want to go with Outrage, that's still going to be good, but Breaking Swipe is a lot better now. And then taking a look at our next best option here for Shadows, we have Shadow Palkia, which just got released from Giovanni. You can actually still get it at the time of filming this video. I don't believe it's going to be in rotation forever though, so if you want to get your hands on one, make sure to use your Super Rocket Radar. You ideally want to go with Dragon Tail plus Draco Meteor, and yeah, this is basically the best of the best. Now with that being said, if you happen to get Palkia Origin Form with Dragon Tail plus the Legacy moveset Spatial Rend, this is going to be preferred over Shadow Palkia. Although Spatial Rend was only available from raids, and it wasn't even guaranteed, so if you happen to get it, like that's a really, really rare moveset. Ideally, Lucky Trade this with somebody else and then power it up, and you should be good to go. It's pretty much on par with Shadow Palkia, it's like slightly worse, not even like significantly worse. And so just the lucky aspect of it makes it a lot cheaper to invest into, not to mention having Spatial Rend is great for the adventure effect and just in general for Master League. Palkia Origin Form is number 2 in the Open Master League. Shadow Palkia number 7, so they're both great investments to be completely honest with you. Assuming that you want to skip Shadow Palkia though, we do have 3 other Shadows I want to go over. It's going to be Shadow Salamence, Shadow Garchomp, and Shadow Dragonite. Now for Shadow Salamence, you can get away not having Outrage on it anymore because Draco Meteor is much better after the recent updates. So Dragon Tail plus Draco Meteor perfectly fine, that's going to be the next best option. And then you also have Shadow Garchomp with Dragon Tail plus Outrage, and then Shadow Dragonite with Dragon Tail plus Draco Meteor, right? Draco Meteor is going to be a legacy moveset. So if you want to use Outrage on Dragonite, that would be a good option as well. Honestly, if you happen to get any of these Pokemon with good IV spreads, guys, it is totally worth investing into. I actually got a 98% IV Shadow Bagon, which I powered up to Salamence, and that thing is level 50 right now. I use it all the time. So if you happen to get one of these dragons with really good IVs and you want to power it up to level 50, it is absolutely going to be worth the investment. Especially considering the Palkia Origin Form with Spatial Rend is so difficult to get. Not to mention, the next best option that I have on here is going to be Dialga Origin Form with Dragon Breath plus a Legacy moveset, Roar of Time. Also an adventure effect, also only available from raids, also incredibly difficult to get. So yeah, it's worse than, everything that we talked about so far, but not significantly. It's like, what, 2 points lower than Palkia Origin Form? So yeah, that's not that big of a deal. Now I do really want to stress how important having these Legacy Adventure Effect movesets are on Palkia Origin Form and Dialga Origin Form. They are not nearly as good without them. So if you happen to get like the Hundo but you don't have the Legacy moveset for either of these Pokemon, I don't think it's worth investing into. I do want to flex a little bit though, just given how rare these Pokemon actually are, because during the first rotation for the Sinnoh Global, I actually got both of these Pokemon with really, really good IV spreads and their Legacy movesets. I got the Hundo for Palkia Origin Form, and I got a 98 for Dialga Origin Form. So both Pokemon for me, they're maxed. They're level 50 already. I honestly didn't expect Niantic to make these so difficult to get, but for whatever reason they did, and it just makes having them so much cooler in my opinion, at least for the time being. Now I do want to go over 2 honorable mentions in the Dragon-type category. That's going to be Palkia in its regular form, which is going to be number 12 in the Open Master League, and then also Dragonite in its regular form, number 17 in the Open Master League. If you happen to get the Hundos on either of these Pokemon, definitely worth investing into as well. Now we do actually have one more bonus Pokemon that I always like to include, and whenever I don't include it, you guys always complain about it. So that's going to be Melmetal, which is going to have Thunder Shock as a fast move, plus Double Iron Bash as a legacy charge move, or you can either go with Thunderbolt, Rock Slide, or Superpower. If you don't have Double Iron Bash, that's honestly fine, but given that Melmetal is a Steel-type Pokemon, it benefits from Stab if it does have Double Iron Bash. So I got the Shundo from a trade. I totally gave it that Legacy moveset, no brainer. Now the reason that I'm recommending Melmetal is because it's such a good Pokemon to use for rocket battles. The versatility on the moveset, the typing is fantastic, and not to mention the accessibility is really great, especially for newer players out there. Getting a Melton box isn't that difficult, and if you guys aren't really sure how to do that, I'll leave a link to a guide video down below as well as on screen right now. Basically, outside of that, thank you so much for making it this far. I appreciate you watching the video, and if you want to check out some content in the meantime, you guys can check out this video next.